Not the least, the national political implications. Joining us now to hash it all out is Professor Mark Jones. He's the chair of the Political Science Department at Rice University in Houston. Professor, thank you for being with us. We've had endless debates on this topic. About 70% of Arizonans are for it, about 30% are against it, and by the way, that seems to roughly break down by race in Arizona. Hispanics thinking that they are going to get targeted by this. Police are going to be able to pull them over if they suspect, and I put that in air quotes, that they are in the state illegally. Bottom line is, what do the rest of us outside of Arizona need to be thinking about as this legislation became the law of Arizona?
Well, I think one thing it signals is something we all know from the left and from the right is our current immigration system is broken and needs to be fixed. Where there's considerable disagreement is what to do about it. What's happened here is the Arizona Republican Party has made its biggest proposal regarding where national immigration reform should go by changing state law. And they've sort of thrown the ball in President Obama's court saying, if you're not going to do anything, this is what we're going to do. Now, clearly that's led to a lot of negative reactions throughout the country as well as within Arizona, primarily because I think most people view around the country that Arizona's gone too far with this legislation.
All right, so what does that mean? If Arizona's gone too far with it, it looks like the governor got advice even from her own attorney general that this isn't legislation that's likely to stand up to legal challenge. It's going to cost the state a lot of money in defending lawsuits, but her response to that, according to news reports, is that she said, let's deal with the problem and worry about the Constitution later. That's a political answer to what could be a legal problem.
Well, yes. Governor Brewer really had no choice but to sign this legislation, and that she previously has proposed a 1% increase in the sales tax. And if she had proposed that as well as blocked legislation that was anti-illegal immigrant, she would have lost the Republican primary in August. What she's trying to do now is essentially send a signal to the United States as well as to the rest of or at least the Republican Party sending a signal in Arizona that this is the type of legislation that they want passed. And really, it's more symbolic than anything else because, as you mentioned, it's going to be challenged on legal grounds. It probably will never actually be enforced.
Now, this pushes up to Washington. It already has percolated up to Washington. There are people who are angry about how other priorities like climate change are not going to be dealt with because they think the White House is going to push immigration reform to the front. What are the implications? What are we likely to see Washington do with this?
Well, it's clearly placed immigration reform back at the top of the agenda in D.C. That said, it's very difficult to start such complex legislation during an election year with virtually no prior discussion. So while it's likely to dominate the agenda for the next month or so, it's still very unlikely that any real comprehensive immigration reform is going to be passed this year.
Good conversation. I suspect we're going to have it a lot more. Thanks for joining us. Professor Mark Jones is the chair of the Rice University Political Science Department, joining us from Houston. All right, talking about reforms to things, Wall Street reform. Senate Democrats want to bring a bill